Hello. Me clunking my microphone around. Clonkety clonk. Give me a minute to finish my coffee. And then we will start streaming properly, you know, talking. I mean, I'm streaming now, but not much is happening. Oh, I wonder if my camera's in the right place. I suppose we're about to find out. Let's just start the chat. Let's turn the music down a little. Hopefully that won't be too loud at any point. Oh no, my head. There we go. Better. Hello! Welcome to a Star Citizen stream. We're going to be chatting about sort of whatever you want to talk about. Obviously we've had Fleet Week. Fleet Week is still on until the 30th, so until tomorrow. And it's the sort of finale days now. So you will be able to rent any ships that you want from the, I think it's the Drake Expo Hall. Or to rent any ships from kiosks there that were available during Fleet Week. Last couple of days to buy anything that you want from Fleet Week, so sort of bear that in mind. It was a cool event. Some cool stuff with the Tumble Storm, which is that new concept vehicle, which is in production, gone through a grey box already. They've got the Mirai Furies, which are absolutely awesome little snubs, combat snubs, focused combat snubs. And we've got the RSI Lynx, which, yeah, it's alright. So lots of stuff there that's suitable for lifetime insurance tokens. But if you've got any questions during the live stream, question in brackets, sort of ask what you want. And I'll answer it if I can. I'll have a good go at answering it if I can't. But I'll say, you know, this is what I reckon. A lot of it's going to be, I reckon, or we don't know. So be aware of that. I hope everyone is doing well. It is bank holiday here in the UK. I'm going to stream for a little bit, and then I'm off to my mates to play some board games. If you'd like to further support the stream, there are options. You can click on the join button under my videos, which is basically like Patreon or a Twitch sub for YouTube. There's obviously actual donations you can make, or whatever you think, whatever you fancy. But as I said, I hope you are doing well. Let's have a look. See what's going on in El Questionos. Is it today that all CCUs are available? So today at 4 p.m, if it's not already, at 4 p.m. UTC, you will be able to rent all the ships from the expo hall. CCU-wise, I'm not sure what's happening with the Warbond special CCUs. There might be some bits over the next 48 hours, so keep on checking back, basically. But it's 4 p.m. UTC is when they'd have the changeover. So today or tomorrow at 4 p.m. UTC. But I would expect today, if it's the finale, that will be the last chance for you to get any of the Warbond CCUs. I don't think it's all CCUs. It'll be a select few. But let's sort of wait and see. You will be able to buy all the ships still, though. So all the ships are available that were available during Fleet Week, and the CCUs to those will be, for the most part, available as well. And obviously, that's not going to be true of limited hull ships. So not the Idris, not the Javelin, not the Kraken, stuff like that, because they've sold out. Word on the banning merchantman is it's going to be a while. So, for people that don't know, Cloud Imperium have paused the production on the Banu Merchantman. There was a team of at least 13 working on it for at least a while. Some of that team left and they reprioritized some ships. So basically, Cloud Imperium are saying, look, we're pausing the Banu Merchantman. There are multiple reasons for that. One of them is that the team that we had that were working on it have been effectively disbanded and moved on to other bits at the moment for better priorities. Also, it's super inefficient to make the Banu Merchantman. What do I mean by that? Well, Banu Merchantman, very bespoke ship, very unique ship. They're not going to be reusing lots and lots of that ship for any other ships. So it's sort of like, yes, it's a big capital ship, it's beautiful, it's awesome, but incredibly unique, which means when they're developing stuff, they actually want to work on certain ships that are going to be modular or have modular parts or reused or are going to help the production of other ships and other parts of the project. Now, that means that Cloud Imperium's current idea is to go for RSI. And they want to get RSI ships in order. I believe that they want to start with the Polaris and then use that to build things like the Galaxy and the Perseus and all that sort of jazz, because they share a huge amount of assets and design. So lots of the parts like the corridors and the doors and things like that, all modular. Lots of the sort of hard points and all this sort of jazz, and very, very modular and can be reused or repurposed or slightly changed for the other ships. So they can get at least 3 or more ships for RSI done with that. But they will go back to the Banu Merchantman at some point. But it's going to be a while. Almost certainly going to be a while. Which is a shame. I'm hoping that they show off at CitizenCon. Comic Stud, thank you very much for the raid. That is genuinely appreciated. I don't normally stream at this time or on this... No, I do stream on this day. But not this time. Yeah, so... I lost my train of thought entirely. Banu Merchantman, going to be a while. Hopefully we'll see some of it at CitizenCon, where they got to. But they've gone, look, it's a low priority for us. Now, you could certainly argue that there are some uses for the Banu Merchantman getting into game. As a priority, and that's to help define Banu architecture for planets and things like that. That's one of the reasons I'd go, well, if you're going to build Banu planets, if you're going to be building sort of Banu architecture and the race for the Banu, well, then the Banu Merchantman is very useful for that, although it is a capital ship, it is pretty big. Will we see other Banu-sized ships in the future? Almost certainly. Maybe they'll do a medium Banu ship. Maybe they'll even do that before the Banu Merchantman. Who knows now? Yeah, they've sort of paused that. But on a positive note, for people that want Polaris or RSI ships, there's a big focus on that at the moment. They did also say that they're expanding out the ship teams, and they want to be producing a minimum the same amount of ships they're producing now, plus 1 to 2 capital ships a year, once they've got that team up to speed. I've streamed me very well, thank you very much. I'm a bit tired. It is, as I said, bank holiday. Bank holiday in the UK is always bad for me, because that just means that I've got a bit more work to do. That's typically more people at home watching videos, and Zin definitely having the day off rather than possibly having the day off. But yes, if you'd like to ask any questions during the live stream, question in brackets. I would, as I said, try and answer it. It took 9 years to get the links, whose primary platform has been in-game nearly as long as the Urza. I'm not too fond of CIG continuing to sell products they aren't going to release for nearly a decade. So, they are producing more and more ships each year, as in finishing them off, and they are getting more ships finished each year than they are concepting. Yeah, so that's all genuinely a good thing. It comes down to priorities. So they have built some things where they just go, this is a low priority, and for various reasons, some of those have gotten knocked to the bottom of the stack. So one of the things was the Lynx rover, because they went, who cares about the Lynx, really? Like, I mean, maybe not as sort of dismissive as that, but why is it important? Why is it a priority? Which we've got now as a rover, there's going to be very few people that actually use the Lynx in the short term. It's not important. It's not important for their production. At least that's the way I see it. Or there's other stuff that's more important. And why do we have the Herald in game? It just sort of fitted into where they wanted to put it. I suspect they wanted to have data as cargo and then reprioritized that feature. So it is a stream of development, and sometimes that stream gets diverted. That's my stream analogy for you. But yeah, it's not all ships have that have been in development for 10 years and they haven't got anything done. Well, they've got loads of them done. Just some, yes, have fallen by the wayside. Got like the Genesis Starliner, got the Endeavour and things like that. They're going to be a while, and obviously the Bounty Merchantman as well now, which is a shame because I was really excited for it. Aside from cargo, what other modules are known for the Drake Caterpillar? No other ones are known. However, they talked about and sort of were prototyping stuff several years ago. They talked about things like living modules, so you could have like bunks and living areas for people, armory modules for sort of like for loot and cargo, drop pod stuff, salvage and choppy type things. So I would expect potentially mining. So there's a lot of potential stuff you could have there. Maybe you could have sort of weapons modules, data modules, so you could actually have computers there that could carry data as cargo. There's a load of stuff we might have, we don't know. It's supposed to be one of the most modular ships, though. Thoughts on Maelstrom damage system? How do you think they will go? Don't know yet. So Clan and BM need to talk a lot more about physicalized damage and all that sort of jazz. So some of the stuff they talked about with physical damage is that it's not just ships, it's ship structures, environments, lots of stuff and props that might be part of this damage system as well. Chris made a concerted promise when the Valkyrie was released to not sell concepts. Can you link me to where he said he promised it? So around that time, I've got in my notes from around when they sold the Valkyrie, where they said they were going to try and push more straight-to-flyable ships and less concepts, which is true, and they've done that hugely. There's loads and loads of straight-to-flyable, straight-to-drivable. There's very few concepts. A lot of people that say promise, CIG hardly ever promise something. They say that's the intention, that's the plan. They are very aware that stuff changes, as are the backers and the people that watch the project. Like, I'm not saying that you're wrong to think he promised it if he said those words. Pretty sure he didn't. It's fine to hold people accountable or whatever. As Disco Lando keeps on saying, the only sort of known thing in development is that it's constantly changing. That was a butchering of what he says, but what do we got? So the Lynx hasn't had that many people working on it for very long at all. So they look at the Lynx occasionally and go, not a priority, or maybe they start it very briefly and go, not a priority. So it's not been like worked on for 10 years. It's only had like a very short period of time actually worked on. It just hasn't been prioritized. It's not been an active production for 10 years. Why can't we upgrade our ships past the A2? I don't know about the specifics of your account. Let me just check to see if I can. If it's a bug or something. It's possible that the A2 is the biggest ship currently available on ship upgrades. Look. All ships. And what can I upgrade? An Aurora to? No. Well, you can't upgrade anything bigger than a Hercules A2 because it's the biggest ship. So that and the Polaris are currently the biggest ships. Most expensive ships. Most expensive ships currently available. Hercules A2, ridiculously overinflated price. Right? It's supposed to be quite rare and a powerful bomber. But it's $7. And you can get it in game, but yeah, so limited hull ships aren't CCUable at the moment. So that's Idris, 890 Jump, Constellation Phoenix, Krakens. You want to upgrade your A2 to something. You might, and I don't know how you upgrade it to an A2, want to melt it and change it into something else. So you might want a Hammerhead instead, or a Perseus, or whatever. It's so expensive, the A2s. $750 is mental for a ship. For some reason, I was thinking that it was like the $400 of the C2 and the A2, but no. I remembered the A2 is redonkulously expensive. Has there been anything about the Consolidated Outland Pioneer? There was a little picture of it, and I think it appeared maybe in a video, sort of a concept-y ship flying around. Will this be... Oh, no, not the Pioneer. What am I thinking of? The Liberator? Maybe the Liberator I'm thinking of. So the Consolidated Outland Pioneer is the mobile factory ship. So, what do we know about this? So, originally it was going to build outposts, which when they had modular outposts as their sort of main structures in game. But Cloud Imperium went, no, it's going to be much more than that. It's going to be a mobile factory ship now. You don't need a Pioneer to build bases, although it will let you build more at base and much bigger bases much more efficiently and that sort of stuff. And base building is much more expansive than it originally was going to be. Will this be the only construction ship, or have there been talked to others? Well, apparently you don't need a Pioneer to build a base, so you might be able to build it in other ways. We do know that the Rastar tool is going to be involved in some way, which is the tool that Clan Imperium currently use for building sort of points of interest and that sort of stuff, but they'll make it more player-facing and that sort of jazz. So, do I think it's going to be the only building or construction shipping game? No. I think you'll probably be able to do it with hand tools and that sort of stuff to some degree. There might be some vehicles and other ships that also do that in the future. Camp ships will certainly affect service stability. An interesting one. It depends. We don't. So we've seen Idris and javelins flying around, and sometimes it's not a problem. Sometimes it is. With server meshing, shouldn't be much of a problem once we actually have dialed in sort of dynamic server meshing. Wonder how Theatres Wars has been coming along. So, Theatres of War sort of paused at the moment as well. They've using that team to build up Arena Commander and missions and dynamic events like Siege of Orison and the new platform mission, the retrieval missions, which will be sort of, you have a assignment list of stuff that you need to get from platforms around Orison as well. Yes, so Theatres of War is a big shame. I played it at CitizenCon 2019, and I played it a couple of times during the PT tests, the Evocati tests. It's simply their netcode was not good enough, and the animations and sort of jank and lag and stuff just made it not a refined experience. And they were packaging it as something that was hugely more refined, and they wanted players to be able to play it like a almost free-to-play game. That's what it felt like a polished game. Just wasn't ready for that. They've used that stuff, as I said, for building out Siege of Orison and some other stuff. So that stuff's not lost. They're going to be releasing Theatres of War, working on that again at some point in the future. It's a shame to can it. Hopefully it's not canned in the same way that they canned the Satable Ender's Game style sort of throwing the ball through the hoop and electrocuting people. Yeah. What else have we got? Is it worth picking up lifetime insurance tokens versus 120-month token? So, you can obviously buy all the stuff in game. Lifetime insurance, I think in the future, we don't 100% know, probably will only cover the base hull of the ship. So, if you make any modifications to that ship, you won't get those systems back. And you might have to pay more for insurance or different types of insurance in the future. I'm not 100% sure how it's going to work. I would expect that ship systems, goods ship systems like A-class, S-class systems in the future will be significantly more expensive than the actual hull of a ship. Once you sort of fully outlay like a capital ship, like those capital ship systems are going to be worth a lot more than the capital ship itself, strangely. Because I'm going by paying Eve, and how I'd assume stuff would work. Now, is it worth getting lifetime insurance versus 120-month insurance or whatever? Only you can make that sort of judgment. I mean, 120-month insurance is probably the same as lifetime insurance. Yeah, sort of. It's not. It's infinitely different. But, practically speaking, 10 years. It's quite a lot. But only you can make that decision of that. Insurance will be available in-game at a relatively nominal fee. It's obviously going to be scaled based on the size of the ship and potentially the cargo, the components, whatever. I'm considering trading up to the Polaris. Really sad that we didn't get any news about the Odyssey being in production. Maybe after the Hull C? Question mark. Maybe. Yeah, we didn't hear anything on the Odyssey. Actually, that's a good point. Are there any discounts on ship upgrades? So there are there were daily war bonds. There might be some more war bonds at 4 PM UTC later today. So war bond ship upgrades. Just have a look on the RSI website. On the Invictus Launch Week page. So, if you were to speculate on the Perseus, Polaris, and Galaxy development, do you say they might be aiming to release them roughly in line with Pyro? No. So, it looks likely that they're going to try and get the Polaris out next, and then the Perseus, and then the Galaxy, most likely. How long will that take? That could take a couple of years to get those all out. And I think we could see Pyro end of this year, potentially. Depends on how they're planning to do it, or early next year. So Crown PM have basically said, from what I can understand, that they are prioritizing Pyro's release over server meshing. Now, it might get like a server meshing light or something like that with Pyro. So we've got 3.20 coming up, and I believe it's 4.0 after that. Hopefully. Or 3.21. To me, or does CIG ignore half their ship manufacturers? Large ones get dozens of ships and variants and keep getting new ones announced, with smaller companies like Consolidated Outland being ignored. It's not always the case. Obviously, we have the Nomad. If you're talking about large ships, then maybe. So it depends if they'll come up with an idea for a ship, and then they'll place it within a manufacturer. So some manufacturers are just more developed and have a better pipeline, so they're more likely to put it in those manufacturers' pipelines. And yeah, some of the sort of manufacturers like Consolidated Outland are a bit newer, a bit. Or at least less developed. Can I melt my Kraken and buy it back later using a buyback token? Double check on the support.robertspacindustries.com page to make sure, because obviously the Kraken is a promo item, a promo ship, effectively, as in it's a limited hull. I think so, but you'd have to double check. Any chance the Santok guy will be fireable when Alienwake arrives? I mean, it's possible. We know it's in production. I believe it's going to be a while longer. We've actually seen quite a lot of updates on the Santokyo, and it looks quite far through development, but I don't know how far through. You're going to get updates on the Santokyo and those other alien ships, like the Rylan and stuff like that, during Fleet Week, though. During Alien Week. Alien Week's mid-June, typically. Regarding RSO Focus, do you see the Orion coming? So, maybe after they've got the other ships they talked about done, so the Polaris, Perseus, and Galaxy, maybe they'll then do the Orion. It's actually it's not unlikely. It's quite possible, especially with the way they said they wanted to do stuff like want to get all the capital ships done from a single brand focused on, because we can share the assets between them and it's fresh in the sort of heads of the developers. When I picked up a Liberator, I'm not disheartened. It's a long way away, but super keen for all the industrial gameplay possibilities. And combat. I mean, it's an awesome ship. Then the Bandit Merchantman will be able to go out by Intergalactic Aerospace Expo. Don't know what you mean by that. So I'm not sure if you're talking to someone else. So there's no way the Bandit Merchantman's going to be done this year. It will be on sale again during the Intergalactic Aerospace Expo. Do you know if the Mercury Star Runner will get a second entrance? So, it's been mentioned before. I'm hoping that when they give it a little bit of an update, they have an emergency exit, just potentially like a little, as part of the vents or something like that, a ladder or just a hole that you can get out of. That, to be honest, that's enough for me. I don't know for sure if it's going to get one though. Yeah, I've also heard rumors, but nothing solid. I mentioned following capital ships being easier after the first initial one was done. What is happening with the RSI line? You see that happening with MISC once the Hull C is done? That's a really good question. So RSI, obviously we've talked about that a few times, and the sort of plan for the capital ships there. MISC, a Hull C, yes. Once the Hull C's done, expect them to expand that out to the rest of the Hull series, right? Because they want to get the B, the D and the E all done, and then once they've got those done, well, why not do the rest of sort of MISC style of capital ships? RSI Lynx Emerald, almost certainly. You have to wait until St. Patrick's Day next year. Just popped into the stream, so this might have been answered already, but why do you think they're prioritizing adding more content rather than polishing and finishing what they already have? So they actually do a mixture of both, but it's an alpha for a reason. If it was like if it was a fully released product, they'd focus almost entirely on polishing, right? But they need to keep on pushing forward. They're building games, and if they polish stuff, then they're just going to break it when they release more stuff in the future. So when they release new features, when they update these major mechanics, and there's a lot of placeholder stuff still in the game that they're getting through. So the reason that they try to push for more stuff is because otherwise they will never finish the game. That should really be a priority, in my opinion, from them. But they do seem to balance both bug fixing and polish and releasing new stuff. Now, that's true even of 3.18. It's just 3.18 had a lot of stuff to fix and broke a lot of stuff. It was probably one of the worst releases that we've had for many years in terms of playability and stability, but incredibly important for them development-wise and pushing forward because of the deployment of persistent entity streaming. And it's hugely better in 3.19 and even better in 3.19.1. I appreciate all the kind words. I will pass people's thanks over to Zin as well. She is on holiday today. Back to her just before I start streaming. Bored, why are you bouncing when you talk? So I suffer for I'm pretty bipolar. I was diagnosed as manic depressive. So one of the things I do is I shake, sort of a bit anxiously. It's just an anxious reflex. So I just giggle. It is me bouncing. Also, there's a window open with a curtain flying around, so that might also be joggling the camera. No, I think they said they were going to be working on the Galaxy after the Perseus, so it's the think they said the Polaris, Perseus, and Galaxy. I think that was that order. I'm not sure if it's entirely definitely going to be that order, but definitely the Polaris first. Waits patiently for Argo capital ships. Any work being done to improve the star map? Yes. So they're working on the star map. They're working on mini-maps and new scanning stuff and new points of interest and scanning stuff down. Lots of stuff all to do with that. Don't know when it's going to be in-game, though. In the Squadron 42 dev branch at the moment. Do you think the tractor beam for the Taurus is coming anytime soon? So they are working on tractor beams at the moment. I'm potentially expecting tractor beams for 3.20. I think it's a strong possibility we could have ship scale tractor beams for then. Thank you very much. Travel the map. Thank you very much for the donation. That is genuinely appreciated, sir. Question. I love the Nova, so that's the tank, and the new Storm. But will there be any proper use for them in-game? Missions and such? Yes, in the future. So at the moment, very little reason to use ground vehicles. There's some little transportation sort of help between caves and such. You might want to use them if you're sort of doing some stuff around Jump Town, maybe. And there's potentially use for them in Siege of Orison, although it's not particularly well utilised for that. In the future, yes, Cloud Imperium have said there will be environmental hazards and there will be defences and stuff that will prevent or discourage the use of ships in areas, so you'll land a ship elsewhere and then bring a vehicle in. So we just don't have that gameplay yet, really. So at the moment, not much use for ground vehicles. In the future, lots of use. And people will start using ground vehicles for defensive purposes as well. I'm going to see more and more different types of ground vehicle used by NPCs for defending areas. So we got here. But genuinely, thank you very much for that donation. That is appreciated, sir. Oh, I've got up on my screen now and I can't get rid of it. There we go. 3.18 was bad. I think 3.19 is even worse. Landing on pads, randomly exploding, sinking through floors at area 18, not being able to leave a hospital bed. I have not had said issues. I was having problems that I couldn't open my inventory, and then I server hopped, and that was working fine. I know some people have had a terrible time with 3.19, but Zin and I have sort of been fine with it. What's your favourite daily driver ship? Cutlass Black or Mercury Star Runner? I just love those ships. Fantastic multi-role. Do you think we could see the Polaris in the next 12 months? I don't know how far it is along in production. Actually, did they say they were investing? Let's have a look at my notes. Bear with me once. I got it on my website article. Definitely. Ship's currently in production. Did they say it was pre-production? They're investigating pre-production on the Polaris and are aware how popular the ship is. It might go into production again. More resources are available. But I believe that is planned to go in production actually pretty soon now. You think we can see the Polaris in the next 12 months? It is possible. What if Squadron 42 does come out next year? We'll really see the Glaive and Scythe rework in our hands. Almost certainly. We saw a few years ago that they had sort of done them, right? I think they're saving them for some point to then update Vandal Swarm with. It's possible they want to wait until Squadron 42 is released, but I would expect a I would expect a Vandal Swarm and Arena Commander update before that, sort of putting them in game. Do you think lifetime insurance will end up applying to upgraded options like 300 I-Series? I'm assuming it's going to be for the base of the hull lifetime insurance. I'm not sure what you've bought a 300i with the sort of all the different options, Will lifetime insurance cover that? Possibly. And I don't think Cloud Imperium does ignore all different manufacturers. I just think that well, they do, but it's because their ships don't fit into them at the moment, or some manufacturers are just better for certain types of ships than others. They will expand them out, so you'll get more and more and more. Will hangars likely make a return? So there is going to be personal hangars. There is going to be habs as well, sort of personalized, customizable habs. So sort of bear that in mind. When are we getting those? We don't know. Will we be able to have our own hangars around the verse in different locations? Yes. At points of interest, that's the plan. What's the difference between the Caterpillar and the Hull C? Sorry, I'm new. So, different ships. Drake Caterpillar, that is a cargo ship. It is very modular, though. In the future, you'll be able to change out sections of it. It's got 4 sort of body sections and 1 front section that you can change out for different modules that aren't necessarily cargo modules. So it starts with cargo modules. But switch out for other modules that allow you to do different functionality in the ship. We haven't got full details of that yet, though. Hull C is a transformable large cargo ship that basically can expand out, whoop, and then it has spindles, and then you can put huge amounts of cargo on those spindles. Big cargo containers, like a shipping container. Lots of big ones. There's no new news on base building yet, no, beyond that you don't necessarily need a Pioneer builder base, and the Pioneers are much more of a factory builder that enable you to build more bases or bigger bases, whatever, and base building is going to be significantly more expansive than just outpost building. Is there a limit on the number of unlimited ships or players hangars, like 5,890 jumps, 1,000 javelins? So yes, sort of. So basically, Cloud Imperium said, based on the population of the game, or how many active user accounts they've got, they want to release a certain amount of ships based on that for like rarity percentage. So sort of yes. Once 2 Krakens are in game, the next FenceCon should be held using the flight decks of the Krakens instead of the Hall. Really like that idea. Are they combining Pyro with exploration? So there will be lots of exploration-esque stuff to do in Pyro, for sure. Even its first release, it's quite a big system. For Hull C, they said the back is configured like a module. Do you see CIG using this to create front part of... I don't know. I'd need to dig into that more. I don't have any more information on that. Genuinely, how long until we're out of alpha? Probably 4 years. Something like that. They could move potentially into a beta. And that's optimistic. The Hull series with Fury hangars. I love that idea. I love the idea of having Fury cargo pod hangars, or being able to stick Furies on to the Hull C. I like the idea. Don't know if it's going to be an actual thing. Any announcements this week? So obviously Fleet Week's ending tomorrow. It will be Alien Week in a couple of weeks as we move into June. Could we have 3.20 by the end of June? That's an interesting one as well, because it's supposed to technically be the Q2 patch, right? Do ground vehicles use fuel? I believe they use battery. So in the future, I think you'll have ground vehicles that use fuel and battery, and they can use emergency battery. I think that was the plan. Don't quote me on that. I need to go through my notes again, and it might have changed significantly since they wrote that. You mentioned you do an inventory check first login. I haven't needed to do that for the last few days. Which EU servers do you usually load into? So best, then EU, then US. That's the order I do it if I can't get in or I'm having problems. What sort of price point do I think the Banning Merchant will release at? At least $900, I think, eventually. Well, knowing BoredGamer, what's your vibe feeling on older ships being brought up to speed? Funny glass and... So, there's going to be a marked sort of march towards bringing ships up to gold standard, getting their ships in order for being ready for physical components, making sure they've got their sort of bays ready for components that need to be put there, all that sort of jazz. And we need to do that. Going to be done at some point. They're sort of working through that relatively at a ploddy pace. I'm getting all the Squadron 42 ships in order first. Going to be a while before all ships are at gold standard, and gold standard keeps on moving. It's literally the latest tech is gold standard. What do you think is the best single fighter? Single seater fighter. Depends what you want to use it for. I don't think there is there's no just best. So for general multi-role, I mean things like the Cutlass are fantastic, even though you can't use the turret properly yet. Just one person. I mean, you want like people like Hornets or Sabres. They're obviously going to be different if you want a different type of combat. Some people love the Eclipse. It's really hard to say. There are too many different ships for different purposes to say one is just better than another. What's your best guess on Squadron 42 prices? So, for people that don't know, Squadron 42 is not available to purchase on the RSI website at the moment. And they've said... Let's see if I got it somewhere. Squadron 42 has been removed from the store at its current price, but will return at a later time. This change is not meant to signify anything other than an expected price change. So, I would expect it's gone up by $10. I also expect that Clan Imperium may be making an announcement later this year about Squadron 42, would be my expectation. What's your favourite ship? Mercury Starren, by far. I love its tactileness. I love the little secret hidey holes. I love running around the ship. I think it looks absolutely gorgeous. Loads and loads and loads of things about that ship I absolutely love. It's just really cool, multi-role, multi-crew ship. And it's got cargo, and it's got the future of data gameplay in there as well. Are persistent hangers planned for this year? Don't 100% know. I think it's a strong possibility we could see persistent hangers and some stuff towards persistent habs later this year. When do you think we'll see the Odyssey? Don't know. Lots of people seem to think the Odyssey is a lot further along than it is. Are we going to get any new alien ships? We could see something new alien-wise at Alien Week in a couple of weeks. What do you think? Capital ships can affect server stability, and that's why CIG isn't prioritizing that with unstable servers. So obviously they've got capital ships flying around in game with the Beatrice and Javelins and things like that. Obviously players can't use those ships properly yet. So capital ships, I think it's a mixture of things. Partly server meshing, netcode, stuff like that, yes, plays a part. But also they want to have the multi-crew gameplay rather than just these floating hulks that only 4 people can use together. So they want the resource management system in, they want damage control, they want the mission system, they want all the different parts of the ship, or at least significant portions of it, working properly so that you can actually have that multiplayer gameplay, multi-crew gameplay there properly. I do think they've also scaled down multi-crew gameplay on larger ships, so I don't think you need like 75 players on a Javelin. I think you can probably run it like with 25. All right, don't know exactly when Alien Week's happening. Actually, maybe we do, because it's Banning Fest Contact Day, right? Alien Week 2022. So mid-June. I think it started on the 17th of June last year. No, it started on the 16th of June last year. So around that date this year. Yeah, so 15th or 16th of June, expected to start. I really like the Perseus as well, concept-wise. I like the idea of a big brawling corvette. Do you think the Valkyrie's rear door will grow a little when it gets to gold standard, allowing the Storm and Atlas platform vehicles to fit inside? Oh, I like the idea. It could potentially. I haven't heard anything about that, but I like that idea. It's only something relatively minor. In an A2, C2, and M2, I have a skin, but it only goes on one ship at a time. Why? Because skins are an item at the moment. Release view shows 3.20 Q3 2023. Okay. It's not. So, although technically it should be the Q2 patch, it's the. Thank you for that. So just expect some general updates, I suppose, with 3.19.1 and 3.19.2 maybe over the next few months. Do you like the new Lorville? Yes, I think it looks absolutely beautiful, and the fact that I can get closer to it and fly through it. It's the new Arc Corp up next. I don't know if it's up next, but it obviously needs an update, right? As the Avenger and Constellation lines are also touted, sold as being modular, when do you think CIG will start selling different modules? Don't know. So there's difference between modular and hull variants, and Cloud Imperium keep on seeming to bounce around with ships going, oh no, they're technically modular, oh no, that's actually a hull variant. So hull variants are different ships effectively. Whereas modular means that they're the same chassis, but you can change the modules within them. Cloud Imperium keeps on bouncing around with that. Don't know when they're going to be selling modular stuff. They should be working on modular things in the not too distant future properly. But they keep on sort of bouncing around with it, so anyone's guess. Do you like, we talked about that. As the Avenger and Constellation lines are, talked about that. Do you think we could see a rubbish clear up loop like Bin Man? So I think we could see bins that will destroy items that we can chuck them in. I think we might get rewarded with rep or money for that. I do think there could be either NPCs that do that properly, or players being able to do jobs to do that. Even feel like vending machines and things like that. Yeah. What else have we got? How feasible do you expect it to be to run on Mercury without additional crew? So, if you don't mind running with AI blades or NPC crew, then very. You could run it solo. It's just you wouldn't have much combat potential. Any news on the Crusader ships? Can you be more specific? talking about the spirits. Spirits are in production. I think we'll see them in 3.20. I think those noodle machines will work in the future and probably be restockable. Is there any update or new features near or in the near future regarding orgs? So, they've needed this in for so long. Just better org features. At a glance, I want to be able to tell who's in what org. I want to say the org name. You'll be able to show that if you want to. I would like to see my org mates as a different colour on my UI. And on my mobiGlass, be able to see them. I want to be able to share ships and permissions and that sort of stuff. So there's a huge amount of very basic, little minor things they could do to make the game significantly better for orgs and group play. And I'm not sure why Cloud Imperium haven't done that yet. It could be because they want a really good 12 system that's super developed, which seems silly to not do a few good improvements and then keep on building on them. Have they made a list of what order they're going to do updates to Gold Standard in? No. Well, not a player-facing one. We know that chip-wise, they're going to be focusing on Squadron 42 chips. Do you get TIE Fighter vibes when you see the Mirai Fury? I also get, is it Furies from Babylon 5 vibes? I wouldn't be surprised if the banner measurement gets to $1,200. Oof. It could, it's big. People waited a long time for it. What kind of price we talked about? Thank you very much. Coco Cormac. Someone's behind you. It's my little Chris Roberts. Apparently a random holographic woman as well. Just making sure I don't break any NDAs. Are there any updates on server blades? Will we see them this year or next? We don't know. So they've been building towards a lot of that stuff. We know that some of the ships that they've built, like the Bengal and stuff like that built out, they've built a load of that tech into them already, so their tuts can track independently and all that sort of jazz. But they need to have a system for players to be able to use them, buy them, place them, all that sort of jazz, which is obviously a lot of development as well. So, as far as I know, they are still being developed. Lots of AI stuff in general is being developed at the same sort of time. They need them to be super lightweight, though, because obviously lots of people are using them, and they are very performance hungry, and that's not ideal. We do know they're pretty lightweight already, the ones they've been building. In what update do you think the Crusader platform missions will be regularly available? Don't know. They might run them. They might run a lot of them like events, or things that can be activated. So you might get it like early next year. It might be like, yes, these events are technically always on if you activate them by meeting certain criteria. The server meeting certain criteria. And what are... that's what we just talked about. When we see all the cool stuff from last year's CitizenCon, like AI changes, Superman EVA, and ladder improvements. So a lot of that stuff was Squadron 42 stuff that got in the dev branch. I would expect to see EVA updates later this year, though. Yeah, a lot of stuff gets put into Squadron 42's branch and then gets developed and iterated on in there before dripping into the PU. Do you think players will be able to build their own spaceports and space stations? Almost certainly in the future. Will that be a for release feature of the full game? Maybe not. It might be something they have beyond that. There was, so as part of one of the stretch goals, was management of space stations. So there might be space stations that are already in game that we can fight over. But I do think eventually we will be able to build space stations. Yeah, I think one of the most important things that Clan Pyramid need to get into the game ASAP are organ group features, more of them. There's just so many little things they could do to make the experience so much better for orgs. And yeah, I'm surprised they haven't done that yet. Right. Now, do you know if they might bring back teammate log off on ships? I mean, as far as I was aware, that never worked, but you could log off in beds. But that was never working properly. What about the Polaris? Is there anything that points about its development? Can the Polaris hangar fit an Eclipse? Don't know until it's in our hands, because we don't know the exact metrics of that hull. What it actually will be. Eclipse folded up. I suspect it could fit in there. Don't know, though. There's so many torpedoes. If Squadron 42 turns out to be meh, all the knock-on effects have for the persistent US. Well, so, Clan PM do need to have a win with Squadron 42 because it's their magnum opus, right? They've been spending most of the development time and money effectively on Squadron 42. I mean, obviously it's shared between both, but it's getting the lion's share of development and getting sort of like lion's share of attention, right? They need to be able to show that they can produce a great single-player game with good story and all that sort of jazz. Now, if it isn't the best, as long as the combat and gameplay mechanics are there, and people will still have faith in them. Like if it's just the story or whatever that's not great, and people might be forgiving, but really it needs to be knocking out of the park. It needs to be like a 95 out of 100 game, at least 90, like at least 9 out of 10, right? Because it's Chris's sort of vision, and yeah, they need to prove that they can make a game, because otherwise people are going to be like, can't make a single player game. How are they going to be able to make an MMO that's significantly more complex than that single player game? How many systems are planned? So they have, on paper, as far as I'm aware, 120 star systems. Yeah, that's a lot, seeing that we only have one at the moment. However, obviously they're building up the tools to be able to make them massively quickly compared to what we have now, because they're building the cities and the assets and the tools to build all of that. And genuinely, once they have like all these things with underground facilities and all the city building tech and all the different assets and all the different sort of designs and stars built out, well, building anything out, be it caves or gameplay area or cities, whatever, is just hugely quicker. You know, Squadron 42 won't survive on aggregate score sites, right? I think it's sort of irrelevant. Let's see what actually happens with it. Talk more about. So there's obviously going to be quite a polarized thing, but it's going to be based on whether the game's actually good, right? Sort of, do people really? Let's just sort of see what happens. If is it genuinely a good game? Because okay, the score's relevant. Is it actually tangibly a great game? Is it something that the average person that wanted to play a spiritual successor to Wing Commander, would they give it a 9.5 out of 10? Not, well, would people just hate on it and not hate on it and say it's the scam? Like, okay, you get that with loads of games now. People not playing it, or angry about certain bits of it, or people reviewing films without actually seeing the film. Cool. Like, oh, I gave Squadron 42 a 1 out of 10 because CIG's pricing model for Star Citizen. Okay, what? How does that? The scores are relevant. No, so I'm saying, is the game genuinely good? Right? Fuck the scores. That's what I'm saying. Well, I'm not. I mean, aggregate sites do give a baseline for stuff, and you can see the reviews there. But obviously, do some games get screwed over by aggregate sites? Yes, some. There's some degree in some ways. I'm saying, is it genuinely a good game? Yeah, that's the most important thing. Scores are less important than it actually being a good game. But obviously, reviews and everything give you a good indicator of whether or not you should even give it the time of the day, right? Yeah, they are irrelevant to me. You can put as much stock in them as you want. I'm interested in it being actually genuinely good game. But if I saw something that would got a 5 out of 10, would I even give it the time of the day? Almost certainly not. Mixed reviews and stuff. So yeah, it's going to swage off common people and people that not otherwise buy it. Certainly going to affect a bad score on sites is going to affect people buying it and could effectively make that game a financial failure. I, as a player of that game, want to know if it's actually going to be good. And I do think, to be honest though, I do think that if it's genuinely a good game, good scores will win outright. My thing I'm saying there is that is it genuinely a good game or not? Because they might make, I hope they don't make a flop. I hope they make a genuinely great game. It is fun and it is good and it is like playing in a film where I feel kick-ass. So there's things like Titanfall 2's single player. I absolutely loved that. I think that is an amazing game. Half-Life 2. Oh, superb. I mean, Half-Life at the time was great, but I replayed through Half-Life Sven Karp every so often, and it's a nostalgia trip, but it's not. Half-Life 2 is genuinely a great game. And the scores are clearly important, especially for the measurement of success for a game. I'm not arguing that. I just want them to actually make a great game. Some content creators have dev menu and are banning these people. What? In Star Citizen, as far as I'm aware, that's not the case. I haven't heard anything like that. Right, what else have we got? What are some of the org missions activities you would like to be added to Star Citizen? So, at a glance, I want to be able to see who's in what org. Literally an org tag. Org wars, literally being able to declare war on each other. Being able to share ships. Have an org bank. And see my org mates at a different colour. To be honest, an org rep. That's enough for me in the short term. When do you think we'll see the 600i gold standard? That's a really good question. Don't know. They have not given us an indicator. Can't understand. Can't read the words this person said. Sorry. Do you think Star Citizen will ever come to console? I think it's a stronger possibility now that there are more powerful consoles. As long as they don't have to make a sloppy port, then I think it's possible. Because why would they rule out one of their sort of monetization streams if they don't have to make concessions with the game? Because what they're going to do is they're going to make they make Star Citizen with very little concessions, right? One of the problems with the development and being their own publisher. Am I the only person wanting to see the status report on how the implementation of PES is going and the roadblocks they've come across causing all these issues? They sort of talk about it occasionally, but yes, a PES report, I think maybe as a Star Citizen Live would work pretty well. Just going over, look, this is what happened, this is why we did this is why 3.18 was terrible for playability and stability. These are the things that it's allowed us to do. This is how server meshing's coming along. Yeah, I think that would be very useful. Do you think one of CIG's biggest problems is hiring, not having people to apply for jobs? I mean, I think that is whether or not they have people applying for the jobs or not. Yes, hiring and maintaining a large staff, because they obviously have like potential of 1,200 jobs in just the UK now. Hiring the right talent and maintaining that and keeping that is going to be pretty hard for them, especially keeping seniors. So yeah, that's a problem with the gaming industry. But when you get to a large enough sort of development staff, it's even more important, and it's much harder. When do you think we'll see the Polaris in game? I'm hoping next year. I don't know when the Kraken's coming. It's not in active development, I don't believe. What game is this? Star Citizen. Real estate. Think we can be owners of multiple apartments? Yes. Or rent them. So you'll be able to have houses or apartments or whatever in different points of interest, and you'll be able to build bases as well. We don't know exactly how that's all going to work yet, though. What else have we got? Do you have an Apollo pending in your hangar? Maybe. I don't know. And what else have we got? Do you feel the Corsair to be rushed? Not particularly. I mean, it's going to get gold standard at some point, and once we have proper exploration gameplay that's much more in depth, it will come into its own. I like the Corsair. I think it looks good. Do you think we might get events where we have to defend UE space from Vandal? Almost certainly, yeah. Like, most of the sort of mission ideas you have about Star Citizen, if they're sort of ones that you can see as commonly being used in MMOs and other games, almost certainly will be used at some point in Star Citizen. What's been your favourite ship from Fleet Week? I mean, I really do like the Mirai Fury. I think it genuinely fills a hole. No new news on the Mist Odyssey, no. Polaris, they said they were exploring sort of initial pre-production stuff for it. They do want to go into doing the Polaris and then the rest of the RSI sort of larger capital ships. We might see some more Squadron 42 stuff at CitizenCon. That would be my expectation. We'll see some actual announcements. But let's wait and see. Will NPC crew, pilot, gunners be a reality? Yes. Both AI blades, which are semi-autonomous, and NPC crew, they're both planned and they are developing them. Well, the Apollo's about to go into production, as far as I'm aware. I don't think it's classified as capital class. It's not even nearly as big. It's not even nearly as big as a Corvette. Do you think we might get events where we, as we talked about, what are your thoughts on the Crucible and its associated gameplay? So it might evolve somewhat, the Crucible. So Crucible, repair ship. It's got a little hangar bay that like a medium or large fighter can get into to get repaired, but it's also supposed to have arms to be able to repair large ships. We are able to repair the hulls of ships with the multi-tool, salvage tool, with canisters in that. So it could be just as simple as that, patching up hulls. Do you think we'll see 4.0 by the end of the year? It's possible that we will see it in Eva Carti, right? Are we more likely to see it? Demo of Squadron 42 or a date at CitizenCon? We have no idea what they've got planned for CitizenCon this year. Can you clarify the differences as you know them between AI crew and blades? So AI crew are literal crew that you'll be able to hire, that you'll be able to have run around your ship, and they're not going to be as good as players, but they'll have stats effectively, and you can get them to sort of defend areas, to do engineering, to do damage control, to control gun turrets, stuff like that. So some basic crew things. I'm not sure how multi-role they'll be, but you'll be able to get them to do stuff and they'll be able to operate the ship with you. Not for you entirely, but with you, I believe is the idea. AI blades take sort of slots in your computer system. You will have a certain amount of blades that you can effectively utilize on a ship, and you can use them for many different tasks, including having semi-autonomous functions, giving you like a bounty hunter database, giving you better scanning ability, enabling you to automatically fire countermeasures in certain circumstances, being able to tell turrets to shoot enemy craft that come within this range. Do you think Pyro will make? Do you think Pyro will make use of bigger ships if it doesn't have as many places to refuel or repair as Stanton? So yeah, so potentially like carrier ships, yeah, maybe. Obviously they need things like refuel mechanics and stuff that they've got in game for that. There are still various places to refuel, but yes, I think larger and longer range ships are going to have a better time in Pyro in the shorter term. Do you think there will be companions like in Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic in this game if they tie to reputation? So I think you'll be able to get more higher class sort of officers and crew for smaller ships, yes. But obviously when you're going for a larger ship's crew, there might be a bit more generic. Hey, just got here. Can you elaborate more on the whole modularity thing you mentioned? That was it coming sooner rather than later, and what could it mean for ships like the Cat? So modularity-wise, expect them to get the resource management system in first before they focus on modularity, and then that will enable so that it's sort of physical damage and it's multi-crew and it's having sort of components actually in the ships and that sort of jazz. I think they're going to want that in before they have modularity, because modularity then affects the ships quite a lot beyond that. And it's effectively a giant component that you're sort of slotting in, or a new room you're slotting in. But we don't have times on that, unfortunately. What does it mean for the Caterpillar? Well, it means the Caterpillar can have a load more functions and roles, and you'll be able to set it up in a huge amount of different ways. Right, I am going to have to dash off because I am needing a shower. And then I'm going to my mates to play some board games. There will be a video coming out later today on the UE recruitment and some sort of lore about sort of Fleet Week and being homesick, and it's one of Zin's emotional videos about Star Citizen lore. And yeah, we've made it Fleet Week-esque at this time. Thank you so much for watching. Genuinely appreciate it. Thank you very much for the subs. And the donations. That is genuinely appreciated. If you want to go further to support the channel, you can use the join button under my videos. You can become a Patreon. You can check us a donation. All goes a long way to help us make daily Star Citizen content, be it news, be it lore, be it just a topic or drama or something we're talking about. Fleet Week. We've got Fleet Week, the finale later today at 4 PM UTC. That will enable you to rent all the ships that were previously at Fleet Week, I believe, from the kiosks that will be at the Drake Defense Con area, so at the spaceport there. But yeah, genuinely, thank you so much for watching today. Hope you have a great one, and I will see you in the verse soon. C1 update. I'm expecting the spirits for 3.20. We do know that it's actively in production, the Spirit series, but that's as much as we know at the moment. Right.